Well, it's Bob here at Sorrento Hill. Hey, you don't see me, but you can hear me. I had one of my subscribers comment one day last week because I done the video of putting the guttering up, and I had the camera on wide angle, and I was having to be away from the camera, and so he could barely hear what I was saying. So I bought this little lavalier mic. It's got a little Bluetooth thing that hooks up to the I'm using my phone right now, but hooks up and records the sound. It's supposed to be good for up to 65 feet. I did a little experiment with it and was really pleased with how the sound came out. So now I don't have to hold on to it, and you can be a little further away and see what's going on and still hear me, which I hope is a good thing. I'm going to go with that's a good thing. So anyways, what I'm doing today, right now, as you can see, I've been working on wall here. I've got my window box in, the keys all around it to hold the mortar, and that'll help secure it. But I got a special log here, this one right here. And what I'm going to do is, instead of this log laying horizontally like the rest of these are in the wall, I really liked the character of this log. It has a lot of little ripples and imperfections and knots, and just I thought, you know, that's too nice to stick inside there. So what I did, this is a wedge. I cut a piece of it out to make it a little lighter and easier to handle. Should have brought it closer to me, but at any rate. And it's going to set in there just like that. And it's going to sit underneath this window. So right now I've got that foundation layer in, and I've got my outlet box in. And what I'm going to do is just lay a layer of mortar down so that I can come up there and get that in place and figure out a way to secure it and hold it in place while I build up mortar around it. And then what I'll be doing is some of these logs here and some others that I've got inside, I'll cut in half so that they'll fill in behind it and some around it. So that's going to take up quite a bit of the wall, but I just thought that would be a neat little accent piece. I've also got another little thing going here. I've got right here, I've got a log that I split in half, and I've kept that together. And what I'll be doing is right in here, I'll put half of that log and then a layer of mortar and then the other half above it. So it'll be an exploded log. I think they look kind of neat that way. I've got several that I've done horizontally, so I think I might do this one where the split is vertically, just make it look a little different. And it'll go right in this space in here. So without further ado, and now that you can actually hear what I'm talking about, let me get to putting some mortar down. This isn't the best mortar that I've made. It's a little bit what I would call goopy. So I may have to let this sit and harden up a little bit, you know, before I can use it. Now you could see the yellow cord here. Hopefully that's for my electrical wiring, and I've got it so that there's no mortar touching it, and there won't be any mortar touching it, so I don't have to worry about mortar eating away at the insulation on the wiring. So again, people sometimes people get an idea, well, you have to do things a certain way, and I'm one of those that says, well, why do you have to do it that way? Well, because that's just, everybody knows you have to do it that way. Well, I want to know what's the reason. Is it a code reason? You know, when someone says, well, you can't do that, does that mean it's an impossibility? Or does that mean don't do that? So I like to find out. Is it a you can't because it's impossible, or is it a you can't because it's just not a good idea? So that made life real interesting when I was in school, by the way, because teachers don't like that by and large. All right, so I'm trying to get this so I can have it right in the center, and I'm going to have to get me a little bucket to put some mortar in to bring around to the other side for when I'm working on that. And I'm going to have a little bit thicker mortar joint in a couple places than I wanted, but hey, it sometimes you just have to do what you got to do, right? So, and again, this is thinner than I normally make it. They didn't have my usual sand, so this is a finer sand that went into it, and it really affects how it handles the moisture. So I'm going to have to adapt my recipe just a little bit to get used to this. And of course, by the time I get used to that, they'll have the other sand that I'm used to in hand. This is a real fine sand, and what I've been using is a utility sand that's actually got like some small gravel in it. And I like to work with it. I like the texture of it and all that. Now, what I am going to do here is use some extra, and because the base of that log is triangular, so I've got a space here in the center where I'm going to put some more mortar. I know you can't see that, but put some more mortar to kind of support that part of it. So it's going to have more mortar here than I normally would use for putting the log in, but that's to support it. And I want to make sure I don't get mortar on my wiring, so I'm going to have to reroute that. Okay. One thing nice about the solid copper wire is that you can bend it to your will, kind of, sort of. Okay. All right. Sorry for the sniffling there. Last week I was wearing a sweatshirt and a long sleeve t-shirt underneath it. This week I'm sweating to death and drinking Gatorade because it's in the, I think it's in the upper 80s right now. I don't know. Certainly warmer than it has been, and of course next week it's going to be back down in the 70s. So I'll be sniffling again because it'll be cold. And of course, you go out to get in the truck, and it's a silver truck, and it looks, you get in, it looks almost yellow, and the windshield's yellow from all the pollen. And I don't know if your weather is as crazy as Missouri weather is, but it just changes. I saw a thing I thought was funny. The reason they call it May is because it may be hot, it may be cold, it may rain, it may snow, it may have a tornado. You just never know. That's what May is around here anyway. I don't know if that's what it is around you, but that's what it is around here. Okay. Let's see if I got a good place to put this mortar. So here I am, and let's see if I can do this without tearing anything up. Sometimes I get too landlocked. And how far out do I want to come? All right. Well, what do you think? Wow. Trying to see if I think it's as centered under the window as I want it to be. And there we go. I think it needs to lean back just a hair. And again, that's where sometimes you can play with the mortar and get it where you want it. And then I'll trim some of this off. Now this will stick out away from the wall some. It'll stick out away from the window a little, but there won't be anything going in here. So I kind of like it. And let me show you a little closer what it looks like. Sunlight back there kind of washes it out. But that's the log I was talking about. See the character that it's got to it. And I thought, man, I can't put that inside the wall. So I'm going to have that to where it shows. And see how close it comes to the window. So I'll use some small pieces between that and the window. And then fill in around it. Fill in behind it. And I'm kind of liking that. All right. So here I am back outside. I moved the camera outside. And I'm going to fill in behind this wall. You can see where that log is. Hopefully you can see. There's my half log. Put the split horizontally. Or vertically instead of horizontally. So now I'm going to start in here. And I'll put a good sized round log in here. And then I'll start filling in with my half logs behind this. And then I'll put cut some round ones off to the side here. So fun. First, let me always spray the wood, get it wet so it doesn't absorb the moisture and out of my mortar, make it dry too quick. So and I'll probably end up having to use some small pieces in here too to fill it in. So here we go. And I've got some long sleeve t-shirts coming because you get a little bit of mortar up on top of the glove sleeve and it rubs and boy, it'll make some terrible sores. So I've been wrapping with gauze, but I don't have any tape to wrap with the gauze. And I ordered these shirts off Amazon and they were supposed to have been an in-stock item. And then they ended up not being in stock, so I'm having to wait for them. But they're supposed to be delivered any day now. So I've got one long sleeve t-shirt and it needs to be washed. So you can imagine in this heat, it's not a multi-day wear item. So again, this mortar is, I'm having to get used to this other sand. Like I said, it takes the moisture differently than what I was using. So, and it's just a matter of getting a bead about 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick, about 3 inches wide, and then filling in with insulation and putting the other log on top. And by the time when I get done with this part, I'll end up switching and working on the inside, and then I'll set my ladders up with a board to use that for getting in here to do my tuck pointing. it's kind of a pain getting the mortar up high and all that. So, and some of my mortar joints will end up being a little bit bigger than others, but I try to keep them about an inch to an inch and a half. And sometimes when you get in an area like this in between, they have to be a little thicker. And again, the insulation that I'm using is just a loose cellulose insulation. You see there, it's designed to be blown into attics. You rent a special machine and you blow it in, but it works pretty well to just break it up by hand and pour it in place, and it lets me fill the cavity up real well. Now this bag that I'm holding here, that's about 2/3 of a bag, but that bag costs a whopping $9.98, and I'll use about a bag and between a bag and a half and 2 bags a wall. It really kind of depends upon how big my logs are, but it's about a bag, between a bag and a half and 2 bags on a wall section. So, and today I had to go buy some more. Let's see, I had to buy a bag of cement, 2 bags of lime, 10 bags of sand, and 1 bag of insulation, and I spent $114 and change. And the materials that I bought today should get me through this wall. So the big thing is the expense. It's not expensive as far as materials, but it's as far as time, because it is time consuming. All right. Now, I sand the end of this log. We'll see how loud and obnoxious that gets. Y'all may have to turn the volume down. And the reason I did that is because sometimes when I cut, the miter saw won't go all the way through, and then I have to finish the cut with the hand saw, and it leaves a little bit of a lip there. And that way I kind of smooth that off, or I'll end up with some saw marks, and then that doesn't look real great. So, okay. All right. And like I said, I may end up, I got a little gap there. There we go. And sometimes it's just kind of like positioning it, and I'll end up with a fairly big mortar joint there. That's all right. And now right now I'm just kind of eyeballing because I'm close enough, and it seems to be working out pretty well. But as I start working inside, what I'll do is I've got my swinging 2x4 gauge I mount up between the rafters, and then it's spaced 16 inches from here so I can use that to line my logs up against it on the inside and make sure that they're straight. I didn't do that on my first couple walls that I made, and they don't look that good. I mean, they're not real straight. If you look at it real closely, you can see it bulging in place in a couple places. Another reason for doing the sanding is sometimes when you cut it, you'll get little splinters, little whiskers sticking out the side. And by doing that, by sanding it, I get those off so I don't see those sticking out. Okay, put some mortar in here. And since I've already sprayed these, I'll go ahead and lay a bead of mortar all the way across and then start going up with my half logs right in here. All right. And when I bought this hatchet, it wouldn't even, I mean, it would just kind of take branches off by breaking them. But I spent about 2 hours with a file and a whetstone, and it does pretty decent now. Time to be touched up though. Okay, that's better. Before it was sticking out too far. Okay. And then I'll dip this down in the water, get it wet so it doesn't soak up too much moisture from my mortar. There we go. And then I'll put another rectangular one here. That's some pretty grain, isn't it? It'll look nice. And all I'm doing there again is just taking the whiskers off of it and get it wet. Oh, got the wrong part wet. Well, the whole thing's wet now. I dropped it. Okay. And then there we go. Big long crack, so it just comes off in one piece. I don't want those splits going through to let air infiltrate, so I'll break that off. Sometimes I have to get out the hatchet to do it. And you end up with some neat things, like there's where a branch came through, so it forms a neat shape. So, and again with the sander, and that's why sometimes I need the hatchet. And I think what I'm going to do, okay, I like that. See, that comes down the way the wedge is. That comes down kind of past the wood a little bit, or past that wood brace. So the next piece kind of hide it and sandwich it in there, and then in this little space here, I'll put another one of those small logs as a filler, and call that good. And again, just give it a quick douse in there, and then boom, there we go. And that keeps my mortar joints, oops, a little smaller, which I like, or keeps me from having such a huge mortar joint. And okay. All right, well, that's what it looks like so far. Now I've got to do the tuck pointing. The darker part is what I did today. So I got quite a bit of it done. I just had one layer when I started, so here I am halfway up to the bottom of the window. So now to do the tuck pointing and make it all nice and smooth and silky, and I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. All right, so that's what it looks like on the inside, with that character log and then the other logs filling in around it. I'll have to do a little touch up on that. Some of it looks good and some of it not as good as I want it to, so I'll touch that up as I'm tuck pointing it. I'm not going to bore you with the tuck pointing part because I'm not real crazy about that either. All right, that'll about do it for today. I'm going to do my tuck pointing, try to make that look a little nicer, and then I'm going to go in and wash some of the sweat and grime off and fix dinner. Yeah, I still have to fix dinner. So that's it for this one. This is Bob out here at Serenity Hill. Hope you like and subscribe. And that's how we do cordwood. All right, we'll talk to you later.